Savitri Saraswati Gayatri Sita Janaki Pankaj Lakshmi Sita Janaki Pankaj Lakshmi Neno Dharini Durita Harini Neno Dharini Durita Harini Sattva-raja-tama Triguna-dharini Sattva-raja-tama Triguna-dharini Sandhya Savitri Saraswati Gayatri Savitri Saraswati Gayatri Radha Rukmini Pankaj Lakshmi Radha Rukmini Pankaj Lakshmi Neno Dharini Durita Harini Neno Dharini Durita Harini Sattva-raja-tama Triguna-dharini Sattva-raja-tama Triguna-dharini Neno Dharini Durita Harini Neno Dharini Durita Harini Sattva-raja-tama Triguna-dharini Sattva-raja-tama Triguna-dharini Neno Dharini Durita Harini Neno Dharini Durita Harini Hari Om Narayana 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 Please, what is the relationship between mind to soul, mind to consciousness? What is the relationship of the mind to soul, the mind to consciousness? Is it like a bridge or an agent? And what the mind thinks is an indication of the condition of the soul. What happens to the sludge, all the accumulation that's there in mind? Is it transmuted, transcended, or destroyed? By destroyed, I mean sent back to its origins in matter, mind being of matter. Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. Thus, I always have to use the mechanism of thinking, of mind stuff. If mind is stuff or matter, it is perhaps a separate conditioned entity. What triggers the mind to turn off when you go to sleep? Are dreams of consciousness or of the mind? If I think I am thinking, I am thinking. Is consciousness that is. If I think I am thinking, I am thinking is consciousness that is. When I am not thinking, I am thinking, am I thinking? When I am not thinking, I am thinking. When I am thinking, I am not thinking. I am not thinking. When you are thinking or not thinking, that's also a thought. No, it's an interesting, no? They have got a lot of deep study behind this. These set of queries are the outcome of study. Now please, what is the relationship of mind to soul and to consciousness? Relationship of mind to the soul. If the term soul is used to mean the individualized being, what they call in Sanskrit, Vedantic, yogic terminology, Jivatma, that is the individual, the being. The relationship of mind to this soul is of the very essence. It is because of the mind this soul has manifested itself. There is a very significant saying, God plus mind is soul. And soul without mind is God. That means mind is the conditioning or limiting factor which makes unlimited, untrammeled, infinite, homogeneous consciousness seem to have become a limited, separatist consciousness. And Vedanta tries to explain this situation by saying, just as if a person would go to the ocean, seashore, or if you go to the banks of a vast lake, like Lake Michigan, for example, where even ships ply, a vast lake, and he goes with, say, about 500 little pots and fills them with water and brings them out on the bank and keeps them. Maybe there are some, it's a recreation center, maybe there are a lot of tennis courts, and keeps them all. Now, you see, there is water in the lake. There is water in each one of these pots. Now, what is the actual difference between that water and this water? Is there any actual difference? Has the water in the pot undergone any change because of its having been brought out of the lake? And the water in the pot and the water, have they become different in constitution or in composition or in their nature? Okay. Has it undergone any change? No. It is absolutely identical. The water in the lake and the water in the pot, absolutely identical. No change has taken place. But yet, this water has become conditioned. In that, because of its being confined within the limits of a pot, it has assumed a shape, it has assumed a volume, it has assumed a size, all of which is different from the water in the lake, original water in the lake. Boats may be flying in the lake, people may be rowing canoes in the lake, someone may be diving, someone may be swimming, someone may be fishing. Now, in the pot water, none of these things can be done. You cannot fish, you cannot dive, you cannot swim, you cannot boat. But at the same time, water is identical. No change has taken place. It is the same stuff. So it has become limited. And it has become, because of its being thus conditioned by a limiting factor, it seems to be quite different and from the water in the lake. How long? as long as the limiting factor is there. You take each one pot and put the water back into the lake, and there it was, as it was, once again re-experiences the same vastness, same depth, and everything that the lake waters was and is and can do. This also now participates in that moment, in that experience, that vastness. So, it is the conditioning factor that brings about a limitation in this water and makes it seem separate, and makes it seem limited in its powers. And so there is a distinction without an actual difference. A distinction without a difference. So this is exactly how Vedanta describes the situation between the soul and consciousness. Pure consciousness is Brahman. Pure consciousness, absolute, unqualified, and unlimited and unconditioned by time or space or shape is Brahman, pure consciousness. So that is the great experience, and it has been declared as one of the four great Vedic declarations, Prajnanam Brahma. One of the four great Mahavakyas, as they call it, is Prajnanam Brahma. Brahman, or the ultimate absolute reality, is pure consciousness. And that pure consciousness is a state of absolute bliss and peace and light. Pure consciousness, unqualified, without any limiting agents. And mind is the limiting agent par excellence that brings about this individualization of that universal consciousness. See, the universal consciousness is limitless, vast. And here the limiting factor called the mind brings about an individualization, and each individualized consciousness thinks of itself as separate from all the rest of its kind, and therefore there comes about the many. In the one without a second, ekameva advitiyam, there comes about many due to the emergence of this limiting factor called mind. So limiting factor is called upadhi. Upadhi. Upadhi means something that is added on which limits. Okay? So the English philosophical terminology would define upadhi as a limiting adjunct. Limiting adjunct. Mind is the first limiting adjunct. And everything else afterwards develops. Because it is limited consciousness, that consciousness then has the senses and pranas and all that. So the relationship between mind and soul is that mind is the main cause for the soul appearing as a separate entity, a limited entity, bound in time and space, finite, limited, and then takes on a name and form. So jiva, soul, jivatma, its relationship with the mind is that is made possible for this phenomenon called, and if the mind is destroyed or mind is cancelled or transcended, then there is no more jivatma. The drop falls back into the ocean. Okay? And then it is the ocean itself. There is a nice song, Swami Chidananda, Bubble in the Sea. I am the bubble, the water in the sea. And let me become one with thee. And therefore, the Vedantic is that Brahman, limited by mind, becomes the Jivatma. But essentially, the Jivatman and Paramatman are identical. As said, the water in the pot and the water in the lake are identical, essential. Then what is the difference? What is the relationship between mind to consciousness, there is no relationship between mind to consciousness. Pure consciousness is absolute. And it cannot be touched or altered. Its pristine state is always there. So there is no relationship. And then, if there is no relationship in the mind to the pure consciousness, how it is mind has been able to limit that pure consciousness and bring about the phenomenon of the soul? This is the question. And they say, you ask this question after you have got into the mind. They say, even this is only a provisional definition. Brahman is never altered, never modified, or never limited in any way whatsoever, never conditioned. He is always the unconditioned Brahman. This is only some sort of a dream in the mind of Brahman, that it has become limited. They say, actually, mind has never touched consciousness. This phenomenon called Jivatma or the soul is a spurious appearance only. How? The proximity of the mind principle to the pure consciousness, light of pure consciousness, causes a sort of a reflection of that pure light of pure consciousness in the mind. And so, this reflected consciousness thinks itself to be a separate entity. Just imagine you go and stand before a mirror. You see someone there. Supposing that the other being looking at you from the mirror suddenly gets the idea, I am real. I am real. So, what would be the validity of its reality? What would be the validity of its reality? The validity would be only as long as the person continues to stand before the mirror. The moment you step aside, so the validity is only as valuable as this one step of the reality. Okay? If you step aside, it's disappeared. It's no more there at all. And so, to explain this, they have given a wonderful analogy. There is a pure ball of absolute, flawless, transparent crystal. So you know, a perfect crystal is absolutely transparent. You can't even know it is there. And it has no color. It's pure, absolute, like water, transparent. Bring a red rose close to it. The whole crystal becomes a crimson crystal. Okay? Take away the red rose, it is clear as crystal in this case. And bring a piece of purple, violet. The whole crystal becomes filled with that color. Nevertheless, no change has taken place in it. It is always crystal clear. Because of the proximity of the color is reflected in it. It seems as though it has assumed different characteristics altogether. But otherwise, it is nevertheless, even when it appears to be a crimson crystal or a purple violet crystal, it is crystal clear, transparent. So it is the proximity. And how does this? There is no connection between pure consciousness and mind. Mind is matter. Mind is inert. And that consciousness, that spiritual reality is absolute consciousness. It is subtler than the subtlest. It's full of the light of wisdom consciousness. Now, how can there be the emergence of this thing called soul, the I principle, by the contact between these two? How can there be any contact? They say there's no contact. It's only proximity. And how there emerges this reflected consciousness, because Vedanta calls it reflected consciousness. Mind is the medium in which pure consciousness is reflected. And this reflected consciousness thinks itself real. Okay? And that is the Jivatma, the individualized consciousness. And this coming into proximity of the pure consciousness of this inner thing called mind, bringing about this third entity called the reflected consciousness, how it is possible? They say it is a Vedantic riddle. They call it the knotting together of pure consciousness and the inert mind stuff. They call it in Vedanta Chit Jala Granthi. The Granthi is a knot. See, Chit is consciousness. Jala is inertness. A knot between inertness and pure consciousness. It is the explanation given. And this state of the Jiva consciousness is explained by the analogy of what happens to you when you go to bed, fall asleep, and in that dream, in that sleep condition, you dream. Now whether the dream is real or unreal cannot be decided in that dream condition. Because so far as the dream condition is concerned, there is only reality at that time. Neither is the outer physical world, see, pragmatic physical world real, nor is anything beyond real. Then and there, at that moment, whatever is being experienced in the dream consciousness, that is the only reality. But the validity of that reality depends entirely upon the continuity of the dream consciousness. The moment you wake up, finish. The dream disappears. Or the moment you go into deep sleep, the dream is snuffed out. It doesn't exist anymore. It's not there. So either of the two states, that of dreamless deep sleep or wakefulness, immediately puts an end to the dream. It is only a dream phenomenon. But when neither deep sleep supervenes nor the wakeful condition has come about, then it holds the whole field of consciousness that appears to be the only reality. But then its reality is a mythical reality. Immediately, instantaneously contradicted by either of the other two states, deep sleep as well as wakefulness. So this sort of a connection is only a provisional connection, there is actually no connection. The mind stuff is by itself inert. Coming into proximity with pure consciousness, pure consciousness becomes reflected, and it is the phenomenon of the soul. Phenomenon of the soul. It does not bring any difference in the pure consciousness as such, because pure consciousness is still what it is. But mind being the medium that takes upon itself the reflection, there seems to be an unholy alliance between mind and this reflected consciousness. And that's what you are. That's what you are. See? That's what our precarious so-called human individual consciousness, upon which we put so much of importance and so much of value, actually is a reflected consciousness in the medium of the mind. And as long as the mind lasts, so long this soul or this I, this jiva will persist and prevail, continue to prevail. And if the mind is transcended, then it disappears. If the mind is transmuted, then also it disappears. If the mind is destroyed, then there is no one to tell you what it is. If the mind is destroyed, that which was is absorbed back into its own consciousness. Supposing another analogy is given. You fill a pot with water, keep it in a blazing summer afternoon, keep it in an open courtyard, and then suddenly a second sun appears there. And then the second sun can cast its bright light reflection upon some wall, depending upon. And if the water shakes, the sun also shakes. So, the reflected light of the sun is very, very real. And when you look at it, you can see the second sun in the water. How long? As long as the water is there. Supposing it is left there for 3 or 4 days, and it's an earthen pot, and some of the water evaporates from the outside, some of the water directly evaporates. The moment last bit of water evaporates, there is no more any sun. The sun disappears. Where does it disappear? They say it is absorbed back into its source. The reflecting medium no longer existing, it is absorbed back into its source. And all the while when you are seeing two suns, the other sun, original sun is not affected in the least. That is pure consciousness. And the water is the mind. And the reflected consciousness is you, I, and everyone. It is the soul, it is the Jivatma. So much for the relationship. It is a relationship of no relationship. It is an assumed relationship of the time being, temporary. Because there cannot be any real relationship. Now, that is why this mystery is so profound and so intricate that the only way in which Vedanta explains it is that, you see, this is mind. They said whatever you are seeing, it is not what you are seeing, it is something else. And therefore, it is not what you are seeing, it is mind. Not this, it is not this, it is something else. What that something else is for you to know. So they said they have the concept of Maya to try to explain it. And what this Maya is, they said here comes the son of a barren woman. So you know, barren woman cannot conceive. Okay? And so the son of a barren woman is a concept or the myth. Okay? Here comes the son of a barren woman, having refreshed himself by taking a bath in the waters of the desert mirage. Having taken a refreshing bath, now he comes adorned with a sky lotus, a garland of sky lotuses. Okay? Lotuses don't grow in the sky. And so adorned with a garland of sky lotuses. And holding in his hand a weapon fashioned out of the horn of a hare. Okay? Bunny, they have ears, they don't have any horn. So here comes the son of a barren woman, refreshed after a bath in the waters of the mirage, adorned with a garland of lotuses from the sky, and having in his hand a weapon made out of the horns of a hare. And so this soul is as real as this thing that you are describing. And the story of what Maya is, Gurudev once said, there was once a printing establishment that did not exist. And it had a number of beautiful sophisticated printing machines made out of nothing. And all the types that they cast, they all have only zero on it. And so, a younger child went and composed a beautiful story out of these types. And it was printed on the scroll of space. The paper on which is printed was space, empty space. And so, you bound up into a big bound volume. What an absorbing thing it was. See? All the types were only, the only letter in the types was 0 or O. O. So out of these types, the youngster, because a very importunating son, little boy, he wanted the mother to tell a story before going to bed. See? I don't get sleep, tell me a story. So mother picked up this story. There was a wonderful printing establishment which did not exist, and wonderful, many printing presses made out of nothing, and out of these types, plenty of types it had, but all of them only having O. And a beautiful story was composed and printed upon space for paper, empty space for paper, and bound to that. And so she wanted to tell that story. By that time the boy fell asleep. And so story did not have to be explicit. So they say, they give all this explanation and they say, when you attain self-realization, you will laugh at yourself. That has created such a big problem. And when you are never born, you are the ever pure, ever free, ever awakened Atma. Nitya Shuddha, Nitya Buddha, Nitya Mukta, Nitya Paripurna. Atma, that is what you are. Okay? Here you have entered into a sleep of ajnana, avidya, or nescience. Okay? Science is knowledge, nescience is the absence of knowledge. You are entering into a sleep of nescience, and you are dreaming the dream that you are bound and that you are to somehow or other get rid of bondage, you weep and wail and toss about, and when you wake up, then only you know all this problem, experience of bondage was never there in actuality. They say, when you enter into a state of self-realization, you will laugh at yourself. Say, what was all this big fun I was? That is self-realization. Self-realization is suddenly waking up and finding yourself in what you are. See, finding yourself in what you are. So Ramana Maharshi always used to say, if there was anything easy in this world, it is to realize yourself. Because you are not becoming something else. See, you are not becoming something else. You are not attaining something else, not attained. You are not obtaining something not attained. Because if there was something which had not been attained, you attained it, you can lose it once again. So, you are simply reverting to your reality. Does it require a big effort or much education, much qualification, much learning to know that you are a human being? How much effort you have to make? How much teachings you have to learn from great masters in order to be aware, become aware? I am not a monkey, I am not a donkey, I am not a chimpanzee, I am not a crocodile, I am a human being. Does it cost so much? Does it have to make God after so much effort? You are already there in the state. You know that you are a human being. He says, same is the case to know that you are the immortal Atman. It takes just that much. You are thinking that you are something else. Stop thinking that you are something else. And know that you are what you are. See? It is because you are constantly keeping thinking that I am someone else and so on. That is why Gurudev in his song of 1880s, he said, Brahman is the only real entity, Mr. So and so is a false known entity. But we don't like it. We don't want to be thought as non-entity. So we carefully nurture and keep up this inflated balloon of this non-person, non-entity. And we fight and quarrel for it, and we wage wars for it, all because of this being taken to be the reality. The reality is given a go by, and then we worship at the shrine of this imagined reality. So the only thing to do is to wake up. But it is very interesting. The next question that leads to is it like a bridge? Is it an agent? And what the mind thinks, an indication of the conditioned state of the soul. Because the mind is there, the soul is there. If the mind is removed, soul will not exist. So, the soul is the conditioned consciousness of the mind. Conditioned consciousness of the mind. But it is not a bridge. Because when two things are there, you require a bridge to connect this with that. When the sense of duality itself is the basic myth, the basic unreality, then the question of a bridge does not come into being. The duality consciousness is the big myth. That has to be got rid of. And you must know whatever exists is one and one without a second. Now, in all this is the reality, the truth, the transcendental fact. Now, where are you? This, everything is in the intellect. These are all thoughts of the intellect. These are all questions that arise in the intellect. And when these questions arise in the intellect and these thoughts are considered, thoughts are considered in the intellect, you are already in the mind. You are already in the mind state of consciousness. You are nowhere near the absolute consciousness. You are still in that conditioned state of consciousness. And in that conditioned state of consciousness, you have to proceed from where you are. So from this state of consciousness, gradually you have to tell yourself, it's very uncomplimentary, I am living life. I am my biggest problem. I am the great falsehood. I am the one big great falsehood. Barnum Bailey, my own, see, big top. Then you want to tell yourself, and then get rid of the managerial and get rid of everything, and bring down the top. And then you will know whatever is plain ground and sky above. So you have to, and to do this process, mind is necessary. Mind becomes necessary. So to think of your error and want to get rid of your error, then so it's a very, very mysterious, inexplicable situation where mind has caused all the problem, and you have to make use of this very mind in order to bring out a solution for this problem. And so it is the mind that has to know that this state is not the real state. When it has to discriminate between this state and the reality of the absolute state, and therefore mind as intellect has to be made to function as your help. higher and higher states of truth, lesser truth giving place to a higher truth, and that higher truth giving place to a still higher truth. There comes a point where mind now has taken you up to a certain height so far as it can reach. Now if you still want to hold on to the mind, you will never reach beyond it. It is, mind can take you to a point where reasoning, careful discrimination and reflection and keen Vedantic Vichara can take you up to a certain point. When you reach that point, you are as it were a ladder placed against a building in order to get to the roof. Supposing it is not a A-shaped roof, it is a concrete, flat roof, and you want to get there in order to do some work there, and the ladder has been placed. And so this ladder is the mind. You go up to it, and when you have reached the last rung of the ladder has finished its function. After that, if you want to get to the roof, you have to abandon the ladder, leave the ladder and jump onto the roof or step onto the roof. But if you still hold on to the ladder, you will never attain the roof. The ladder has been helpful to bring you to such a state where the roof is accessible now. So, in order to get to the roof, you have to leave the ladder. Okay? And therefore, up till that state, mind has been your help. Having reached that state, now mind is the main obstacle. Mind is the main obstacle that is holding you from that ultimate state or place where you have to go. There, mind has to be transcended. So, Patanjali makes use of the mind. Though he starts with his first premise, yoga is the absolute cessation of all mind function. That is, mind should become no mind. Because there is no mind apart from its function. See, because it is functioning, we know of its existence. If it ceases to function, then it really does not exist. See, mind is a bundle of vrittis and desires. And when it is moving, it is there. When it is not no more moving, mind is no mind. And so he says, the absolute cessation of all mind function. So, mind must become no mind. It must cease to exist. That is Patanjali's first principle, and that is the premises with which he commences the expounding of the yoga science. But after he has commenced, as he goes into the actual disciplines of the yoga science, he depends entirely upon the mind to do all these various types of the withdrawing of the mind and adhering to truthfulness and non-violence and that and this, and studying of the scriptures and swadhyaya and Ishvara pranidhana, prayers, surrender, everything being done by the mind. And ultimately, withdrawing of the mind from outer things and fixing it upon the one inner focal point, and then going on into this state of meditation. And up till a certain state, meditation is accompanied by inquiry. Even when meditation has reached a very high state, and where there is absolute transcendence of the normal consciousness, you go into a high subtle state of consciousness. Even in that state of consciousness, according to Patanjali, there is process of inquiry still going on. There is process of, argument and counter-argument still going on. There is a process of, discrimination still going on. So he speaks of savichara samadhi and nirvichara samadhi, a state of deep concentration still accompanied by inquiry, philosophical, metaphysical inquiry. And when that state stops, Another state comes when you begin to argue out the actual nature of the state. So, satarka samadhi, savitarka samadhi, nirvitarka samadhi. And then ultimately, all these states are transcended when mind ceases to function. And in that state, then you go beyond mind. And when you go beyond mind, you reach a state of absolute, pure consciousness, what is. In that state of pure consciousness, mind is put to rest. See? What happens to all the samskaras? The samskaras still remain in a subtle, hidden, seed state. All the impressions of previous experiences, all the latent tendencies developed and gathered in a previous state of existence, they are still there in a very, very subtle seed form. And therefore he says, it is not enough if you experience the state of trance once, even though you might have transcended inquiry, state of inquiry, transcended the state of argument and counter-argument, you have reached the state of absolute quiescence. In the state of quiescence, it looks as though you have already achieved, but then you have still not achieved, because these latent impressions and latent tendencies, what the questioner refers to as sludge, it is still there. And therefore, Patanjali says, the yogi has to go on practicing samadhi again and again. He has to go on practicing again and again samadhi until that samadhi becomes so deep, so intense, so continuous, so unbroken. There, the fire of illumination or fire of knowledge, jnana, bursts forth. The moment the fire of jnana bursts forth, he says, all these things are consumed. There is no more any sludge. It is all devoured. And you can call it destroyed, you can call it transmuted, because there is one school of thought which says nothing is ever destroyed. Some totality of whatever exists is always the same. There is no subtraction, there is no enhancement or reducing. It only changes its form. But sufficient for us, from our point of view, it disappears from human experience, disappears from all the state of perception. It becomes subtler than the subtle. It is absorbed back into its source, as the Vedantic terminology goes. It is absorbed back into the source. What happens to the sludge? It is destroyed. It is absorbed back into the source. It is transmuted, transcended, destroyed, everything. These are all so many terms. All these things happen. As they say, hand drawn in water. Same thing. It is transmuted, destroyed. So it ceases to be what it was before. And Brahman alone prevails. See? And it is sent back into its original state. I don't say that the original state of matter. After all, there is a school of Vedanta which says matter is nothing but Brahman involved gradually into the densest form. And when it is once again resolved back, it becomes pure Brahman. At one end of the scale is Brahman, at another end of the scale is matter. See? Matter. The devolution of Brahman into grossness is ultimately matter. Because the ultimate declaration of Vedanta is Ekameva Advitiyam Brahman. One alone exists. There is no duality. So whatever is, dualities, multifarieties, everything is manifestation of Brahman in varying stages of grossness. If the Brahmic state is the subtlest of the subtle, everything else that it comes out of it, manifests out of it, is only gross related in comparison with Brahman. So various stages of grossness is what is known as the universal matter. Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. But the Vedanta says, I am, therefore I think. If I did not exist, thought itself is impossible. So I come first. Existence is. Then afterwards process. See? The numerator is. Then afterwards phenomenon. See? Pure existence is. Then a lot of processes of thought or whatever it is makes possible. Because of existence, all other things are made possible. But then, perhaps Descartes said it in a different state. I know, now I discover, I know I am because I discover that there is thought process. Because of the thought process, it proves my existence. So it is a priori argument. He is the being who was, but he was not aware that he was. But now he suddenly becomes aware because he finds that how can thought be unless I am there? Okay? Because of the very fact that I am thinking, okay, it goes to prove my a priori existence. Okay? What exactly he meant when he said that, you have to ask Descartes. Okay? See, some of these sentences are very, very peculiar sentences. Okay? You can read them in any way. Okay? Cogito, ergo sum. I am thinking. Therefore, I know that I am. Because if I was not there, who would be thinking? There is a Delphi, a place called Delphi in Rome, and then and this oracle. And you go to the oracle and put a question, it is able to tell you what's the answer, what's going to come. And Roman, the emperor wanted to know. There was a war between Greeks and Romans. Who will win? And the oracle said, she went into a trance and burnt incense, and then the answer came. The Greeks, the Romans shall conquer. The Greeks, the Romans shall conquer. The Greeks will conquer the Romans, or the Romans shall conquer the Greeks. But she has said it, and then it's for you to make out how you read the sentence. The Greeks, the Romans shall conquer. It is sometimes Descartes is saying also, has to be, does I always have to use the mechanism of thinking, mind stuff? As long as the I is identified with the questioner, it has to make use of the mechanism of mind and all its functions. If the moment the I of the questioner identifies itself with Brahman, mind mechanism is obsolete. It can be discarded. Okay? It can be dumped. So it depends upon the I of the questioner in what state it is. If it is in a state of a questioner, I am the one who is questioning, mind mechanism is very much necessary. But the moment I of the questioner identify itself with Brahman, mind mechanism is dispensable. The I by itself, to abide in its own prescribed condition, does not require any mechanism. But then, the mind will not allow it to abide in its own prescribed condition. It will start various desires, various anxieties. It is the simplest thing, but the most difficult thing to be what you are, abide in your own pristine condition. Because the body will want to go to sleep, and the mind will say, all right, let me go to bed, and then to abide in that condition. Then the mind says, then the body says, I will be what I am. You can do that. Then you already won the race. Our dreams of consciousness are mind. Dreams are of mind. See, here also is a matter of how you use the terms consciousness. Then we must stick to one type of use only. If consciousness means pure consciousness, dreams are very much the stuff of the mind and mind only, and definitely not of consciousness. Consciousness does not have a dream. Okay? What triggers the mind to turn off when you go to sleep? The cycle of three gunas go on rotating in each individualized consciousness. And when pure tamas gets the upper hand, that which triggers off sleep. Sleep is a function of tamas. When rajas supervenes, sleeper awakes. Okay? And when sattva supervenes, the sleeper, the being wants either to go to satsang or do japa, go for prayer, serve someone. All things that are auspicious, blessed, uplifting, of the light, moving towards light, they are the working of sattva in the system. And all things that are filled with desire and restlessness and activity for oneself is outcome of rajas. And when pure tamas supervenes, then triggers off sleep. It is a function of tamas. If I think, I am thinking, I am thinking. Is consciousness that is. You see, this I goes through constant rotation of these three states of consciousness: waking, sleeping, dreaming, sleeping, waking, dreaming, sleeping, waking, dreaming, sleeping. And these three states of consciousness, upon what substratum will they take place? What is the ground on which these variations take place? There must be some permanent ground for everything to take place. That permanent ground is pure consciousness. Upon the permanent ground of pure consciousness, these varying stages of waking, sleeping, dreaming take place. And when one can get out of the circle and go into the fourth supporting background substratum of all these changing states, then one is in one's own pure consciousness, one in Brahman. Brahman is the fourth state, it is in the first state. It is called the fourth state because of these three states, other than these three, which is within the range of our experience. Within the range of our experience, we know only have three states. And because it is the other than the three, it is called the fourth. Actually, it is the first. And when you know it, you will know it is the only state of consciousness. It is the only state of consciousness. There are no other states of consciousness. They are all happening within itself. Within itself. That alone is the reality. That alone exists. And understanding in depth of this fourth state of consciousness is given in one separate Upanishad which treats only of this state, and it is called the Mandukya Upanishad. And the guru of Shankaracharya and his guru, see, grandfather guru of Shankaracharya, has written a big commentary upon that one small Upanishad, trying to bring home to us the meaning of that Upanishad which tries to give us a knowledge of that fourth state of consciousness, which is actually the transcendental state of consciousness, and that is called Turiya. Okay? Jagrati, Swapna, Sushupti, Turiya, transcendental state of consciousness. That is Brahman. That is what you are. That is your reality. Everyone's reality. Deep within us, there is that ever shining light of absolute pure consciousness, untrammeled by time or space, or unqualified by any limiting idea, without condition, unconditioned, unlimited, untrammeled state of pure consciousness. That is your reality. That is your truth. That is your real essential nature. That is your eternal identity. And you have to think of it. You have to reflect upon it. You have to listen about it. And you have to meditate upon it. I am the ever pure, ever free, ever full, transcendental consciousness. And without birth, without death, without old age, without name, without form, beyond time and space. I am that pure I am, unconditioned by anything, unqualified by anything. I am. And that in that I am, there is no problem, there is no mind. All these questions disappear. They dissolve and disappear. And that state alone, supervision, is always there. A peculiar deflection from it has come about, and in that state of deflection, we are full of these questions. And the ultimate answer to all these questions is pure meditation. Okay? Questions are no ultimate answer to all these questions is pure meditation, by which one attains the knowledge of the self, and when one attains the knowledge of the self, all questions disappear. There is no doubt. And one is where one has always been. Harivantas. Let us now follow Master Swami Chidananda in this initiation that he gave this wonderful favorite chant. Sat Chit Ananda. Existence, consciousness, bliss, absolute. Chit Ananda. Consciousness, bliss. Chidananda, Chidananda, Chidananda hum. Har har mein alam mast satchitananda ho. Chidananda, Chidananda, Chidananda ho. Har har mein alam mast satchitananda ho. Knowledge, bliss, bliss, absolute. In all conditions, I am knowledge, bliss, absolute. Knowledge, bliss, bliss, absolute. In all conditions, I am knowledge, bliss, absolute. Ajaran, Amaran, Achalananda hum. Har har mein alam mast satchitananda hum. Ajaran, Amaran, Achalananda hum. Har har mein alam mast satchitananda hum. Without old age, without death, without movement, in all conditions I am knowledge, bliss, absolute. And without old age, without death, without movement, in all conditions I am knowledge, bliss, absolute. Ajaran, Amaran, Achalananda hum. Har har mein alam mast satchitananda hum. Ajaran, Chidghanananda ho. I am without fear, without worry, existence absolute. I am without fear, without worry, consciousness absolute. Nirbhayam nischinta chidghanananda ho. Nirbhayam nischinta chidghanananda ho. Nitya shuddha siddha satchidananda ho. I am ever pure, ever perfect, knowledge absolute. Existence absolute. Bliss absolute. Knowledge, bliss, bliss absolute. In all conditions, I am knowledge, bliss absolute. Knowledge, bliss, absolute. In all conditions, I am knowledge, bliss absolute. Chidananda ho. Har har me alamast satchidananda ho. Chidananda ho. This truth, think, remember it constantly, never forget it. Reflect upon it, over and over again, reflect upon it, and meditate upon it, deep, meditate upon it, deep. This is the way, tat shrotavya, mantavya, nididhyastavya. Beginning of a new dawn and a new day. End of the day physically for the body, end of the day for the mind. But a new dawn, emerging into a new day for the reality consciousness within, where it is light of lights beyond all darkness, where the sun does not shine, neither the moon nor the stars, nor the lightning, what to say of this fire, earthly fire. Okay. That shining, all else shine here, borrowing their light from it. That light of lights beyond all darkness, that is your unchanging, the eternal state of being. Be that and shine, and shine, and shine, and bring the radiance of that light all around you, everywhere, wherever you live, and wherever you move, and your being. I am the light is in me, I am the light, I am the light. Jyotishamati tat jyoti tamasa paramiti jnanam Hri sarvasya Vishnu. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Mind is very fair.